And we're live. Good evening, everyone. We're doing the old setup, so don't worry. If I look a little messed up, I look a little messed up. It's not a bad thing. Um, Tonight's show is mostly a listening show, and you don't really need to see me. So, and I've been told I have a face for radio. So, no worries about it. We are live. We're going to give it a few minutes for people who want to drop in live, or if you're going to watch this on playback. Rewind to the very beginning and make sure you watch all of this. That way you can catch everything that is said, and we'll go from there. So we're just going to give it a minute or so. Take a drink, get things ready. So I do want to thank everyone who has been watching Saturday Story Time, or as I like to call it, Women Make Me Angry. It's been very good. A lot of viewers on that channel. Not that channel, but the show. It's on this channel, the Angriest Man and Orlando channel. I am the Angriest Man, Anthony. And it's terrible stories, but seems like a lot of fun. Everyone seems to like it and watch it over and over, or multiple people watch it. And so we've got, I think, about 4 more or so that we're going to do. So that's every Saturday at 8. So thank you, everyone that has been watching it. You guys rock. I hope it's entertaining and maybe a lesson is learned. I don't know, maybe. And so we'll keep those going until we run out of stories. So it'll be fun. Hope everyone can hear me. It looks like my microphone is on. Going back to my old setup here. Everything looks okay. Just checking a few things and then we'll get into the show. Okay. I guess you have to do. Okay. No promotions tonight. No. So if you want to donate, you can go on Rumble and donate money to the show. Keeps the lights on. But I'm not asking for anything. So just out of the pure kindness of your heart, if you want to, go ahead. So, couple minutes into it. All right, let's get started. So, tonight's show is, like I said, you mostly want to be able to hear it. You don't really have to see it at all. We're gonna go over last Thursday's debate. If you watched my other show, Two Men in a Room, on the Two Men in a Room channel, I was kind of doing a live watch along, and it really wasn't going anywhere fast. It's kind of like NASCAR. You were kind of waiting for the crash to happen. You weren't really watching for the actual race. And it happened for the most part pretty quickly. Sorry about that. So within 7 seconds, Biden was already coughing. You could already see and hear something wasn't quite up with him. Maybe they didn't give him the proper medication. Maybe they didn't give him enough of the medication. He had been sequestered at Camp David for 7 days, getting ready for this debate. And he came out and didn't look like he was ready at all. He pretty much just read off of whatever he was told to read. I think he memorized a lot of it, which is kind of hard to believe. I didn't see an earpiece, but I couldn't really tell. So perhaps he had one in there. And, President Trump came out, stayed pretty reserved compared to what he could have been, and kind of went along with the debate structure. I think there were only a few times where either candidate tried to speak over the other one, but of course they muted the mic, so you could hear kind of somebody yelling in the background, but you couldn't tell what they were saying. So I actually watched the RFK debate of the debate where he actually answered the questions, which is why I was slightly behind what most people were watching live. So I kind of cut the feed, just said, hey, let's just watch it and we'll get back together and we'll go over it all now. And I don't think anybody won it, contrary to what everybody says. I don't think anybody won it. It was more who was going to lose it. And from the outcry from even Democrats Thursday night, it looks like Joe Biden lost it. As Coach Green of the Minnesota Vikings said one time, they were who we thought they were. Biden was exactly who you thought he was going to be. Could read the bullet points, but could not explain anything. And then when he tried to explain stuff, it went really bad really quick. CNN did try to pull him out of the fire a couple times. You could kind of tell they were, okay, we're going to move on. We're going to jump to this. President Trump, would you like to say anything? So they tried a few times. There's even video of Dana Bash pointing, kind of giving a point to, they say it was Joe Biden, to look over at Jake Tapper, who was speaking. So apparently he was kind of looking off into the distance or something. And it wasn't being filmed, so I don't know why she did it. The camera was on them. So perhaps they didn't know that at the time, and that's why she did what she did. But I've watched it. I've watched the actual debate from CNN. I've watched the debate of the debate from RFK. I've watched the PBD podcast of the debate. And every time you watch it, all you pick up is another soundbite of something that was bad. And if you listen in, and I actually read the actual transcript from CNN. I have the actual CNN transcript of the entire debate. And even there, when you're reading the words, you could tell none of these questions were pretty much answered at all. And even in the RFK debate, John Stossel is the host, and he calls out RFK for not answering the question. RFK had the same thing, 2 minutes to answer. He went on about something else completely different than the question. And Stossel called him out and said, well, okay, no one's going to answer this question. And he said, the producers are in my ear telling me, yes, I have to be fair. I have to be fair. I have to call it for what it is. So it's really good. It's on therealdebate.com, or you can go to RFK Jr.'s X page or Twitter page, whatever you want to call it now, and check that out. It's really good. It's a different perspective, and you get to see what he's all about. So that was the main point. Nobody was answering the questions. So what I did for the grand surprise of tonight was, like I said, I have the transcript of the entire presidential debate from CNN, and I went through and I wrote down every time a question was answered. And I have that right here. I have that right here. It pretty much fills up one legal page out of a legal binder. That was it. It was a 90-minute 90-minute debate. There were 2 5-minute breaks, and out of all these questions, which were about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 with a closing argument. I want to say probably 9 of them were actually answered and actually talked about. And then they kind of went off into all kinds of things like, talk about immigration when we want to talk about economy, talking about this instead of that, talking about the golf game, couldn't even answer childcare, didn't know what was going on with this and that. As Trump said, I don't know what he said, and I don't even think he knows what he said. And that was kind of the defining moment. Nobody really knows what anybody's saying through this whole thing. So, and I posted a tweet that said, we basically have two 80-year-olds and a 70-year-old who can do push-ups. Like, this is what we have. And I have friends who have other friends around the world, and I've even looked through a couple of the international coverage of this. And let me tell you, people around the world have like no idea what's going on anymore in America. They're pretty much just saying, this is who you got. Like, that's it. Like, it looks like craziness over here. So, for the special treat for tonight, I'm going to go through these questions and I'm going to answer them how I would answer them if I was a presidential candidate and I was running for president. And though I don't have the money to do that currently, and I don't quite have the popularity, as you can see from my subscriber follow numbers, to actually do a presidential run, I'll say this: if you'll be able to, if in 20 years I make it, be able to go back and look at what I said now versus what I'm saying then, and be able to compare it and find out if I'm still at the same level that I'm at. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Try not to keep this is not going to be 90 minutes. And what I'll do is I will actually put a timer, a 2-minute timer on here. And we will run the 2 minutes and I will answer each question. So, okay. So we've got the timer up and we will start. Okay. So the first question was, with inflation slowing and prices going still high, do you think voters are worse under President Biden? So this was directed at President Biden, and it was, do you think voters are worse now than before? And then was directed to President Trump, do you think voters are worse under Biden? So I'm going to start the timer. I'm going to answer that. Okay. Yes. Presumptively, yes. They are worse now. You have inflation that is only stated to be about 3.2%, but cumulatively, I should say, collectively, then, it's probably somewhere in the range of about 7% versus, because a lot of people take it as pre-COVID, post-COVID. What happened? How did things change? And, 2001, inflation hit about 9%. And then has slowly dropped to about 6% and about 3%, and it's kind of holding steady at 3. So, but that was inflation's measured year over year. So the prices went up 9%, prices went up 6%, prices went up 3%. Well, they never actually went back down. So actually, realistically, it's probably around 18% versus pre-COVID numbers. So ask yourself what you were doing in 2019, 2018. What was I doing? I was driving around on a pickup truck. I paid $1.25 a gallon for gasoline. I was in an apartment, sharing an apartment with someone, paying about $900 a month for that. I could buy groceries for what? $30 for myself, for that would probably last a whole week. $30 now barely makes a meal. So you have to look at that and say to yourself, inflation hurt. So what was causing inflation? It was printing the money to make the money worthless. People needed money. They were not able to work at jobs. A lot of companies were halted or stopped and could not go back. So we needed money. So the first stimulus was something that was desperately needed to keep people going while they were off. The longer you kept it going and the more stimulus you threw in, the worse inflation was going to get. So you had to find the tipping point where you could stop giving stimulus and get everybody back into work and make this thing work so inflation wouldn't be as high as it is. We've had no deflation and even very minimal disinflation because, yes, your inflation number year over year has gone down, but the prices are still high. So that's about, okay, so I said that wrong. So that was 2 minutes right there. Um, so yeah, lives are worse now. Easy, simple question to answer. Um, Biden can't really answer it because, you know, what can he say? Well, I've brought inflation down, so your growth is not as high. Prices are starting to level out. But honestly, I don't really know anyone right now who is not feeling inflation. Okay. Even if you're going to buy $1 million home right now, that $1 million home was probably 750,000 in 2019. It it went up 25%. So instead of having money to say, hey, we could buy the home, do some renovations, add some stuff to it. Now we have to buy the home and just barely pay the taxes and barely pay the insurance. And I know you're saying, well, shit, if you got $1 million, like, why? That shouldn't be a problem. Listen, everybody works off percentages. Whether you're making $10,000 or you're making $100,000, most people use a certain percentage of their income to pay for their bills. And if you're using 80 to 90% of your income to pay for your bills, then inflation is going to hurt you no matter how much money you're making. So inflation is hurting everyone. People are not buying as much as they could or want to. And a lot of times people are just simply cutting back. You see it. There's a lot of restaurants closing. There's pharmacies and stores, department stores closing. There's dealerships closing. There's companies laying people off. If you follow my Twitter, John Deere is now laying people off and moving their plants to Mexico because they want it to be cheaper to make this stuff. So it absolutely has affected people. And I don't know many people that are doing better today than they were before all this. So we'll move on to the next question. The question was based off of tariffs on goods. Will it drive prices higher? All right, we're going to start the clock again. It's 2-minute clock. Okay. So tariffs on items will make prices on imported items go up. How much does it go up? It depends on how much of a profit they're making and how much do they want to lose on that. Now, if you're selling a lot of it, you can lose a bit of profit and still be profitable. So you may just say, yeah, I'll pay a tariff. I don't care. We'll bring the stuff in. It's okay. What tariffs will do and why you should keep tariffs on for a while is it's going to bring jobs and manufacturing back to America. And as I just said, John Deere's looking to move out of America to keep costs low. You need to find a way to get costs down for manufacturing companies and start building stuff back in America. You know, in the 90s, there used to be a tag on the back of clothing that said made in the USA. And a lot of people loved that. And a lot of people bought that. So I think if you bring that back, the manufacturing, building, technology, developing back to America, you bring the jobs back. The tariffs aren't going to matter because you're producing the stuff here and you're selling it here. And then when you export, you work out deals and stuff like that. But you bring back the jobs that people need. So many people are scared right now. Am I going to lose my job? I hear layoffs are coming. I hear they might be moving this plant. They might be closing this one. Like that, you need sustainability. We can't have America as just a tourist vacation spot. It won't keep this economy going. And that is 2 minutes on that one. Okay. So we'll move on. Why should top earners, and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now? So this was directed at President Trump because he had mentioned the tax cuts that had been done in around, I believe it was 2018 or so. I got money back. I don't know about you, but I had more money in my paycheck with those tax cuts. So it touched everybody, I believe. So we're gonna start the clock. Um, it's pretty simple. I run a business. I run a motorcycle parts business, and when I don't have to pay as much in taxes, that gives me more money to invest back into my company. I can buy a new tire machine for removing tires and putting tires on. I can hire a new person to help me take apart engines and put parts on shelves. I can hire a shipper who can learn the shipping company stuff and be able to work for me, provide for his family, and it gives me the ability to build jobs and build stuff. So top earners and corporations should pay less in taxes than they do now. There should be abilities that if you are bringing jobs into America and employing people in America and buying stuff that you need here in America, then you should be able to get a tax break. The money goes back to the people. Once you start that person with shipping, once you start that person taking apart engines, now they need to eat breakfast. So they stop at McDonald's or Burger King or the local, Casey's shop, and they buy something, which builds that business, which needs another person working there for them. They need lunch. They go to a food truck. They go to a local diner. They go somewhere here. That builds necessity for another person, a cook, a server, someone to package the food for them. When you start building jobs, you start building more jobs, which brings in more people earning money, more people making a living, more people having a routine, which brings people to a living life. They're not sitting at home. They're not just watching shows and doing, playing video games or doing drugs or anything like that. Not that I'm saying everyone who sits at home does drugs, but it brings people to the market. It gets people working and feeling better about themselves. They're able to pay bills. They're able to go on vacation. They're able to get cars. They're able to get homes. And that's what's good for America right now. All right. Next question. As president, would you block abortion medication? Okay, so this was directed at President Trump, and he adamantly said no, he would not. And I agree with him. If I was president, I would not block abortion medication. The follow-up question is on the same subject, so I'm going to do both of these at the same time, and I'll give myself 4 minutes on that one. Do you support legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate pregnancy? Okay, So we're going to start the clock, 4 minutes. We're going to go on subject of abortion. Okay. Abortion is a subject that is brought up to kind of splinter people. And I'll say this, should they have the choice? Sure. Who should be able to get the choice? I think it's the states' rights. You can have some states that say no abortion. You can have other states that say there is abortion. Certainly, once the baby is born, it's not abortion, it's murder. You is a person. You murdered someone. Uh, there should be limits on late-term abortions, I think, unless there is an exception to it. Okay? An exception would be the mother's life is in harm and a doctor says, terminating it would save the mom. Okay. But I think we're looking at this subject in the wrong way. Everyone's debating, should it be there? Should it not be there? No, you shouldn't even look at it like that. We need to start bringing morals to the country where we look at it as, what is abortion? Abortion is the end of a pregnancy. How do you get to a pregnancy? Well, two people have sex. That's what brings us to this point. So, if there's this many abortions going on in the world, we have to look at why it's being done. Are people using this as a form of birth control? Are people using this as emergency medical procedures? Are people using this because they feel it's the right thing to do? I think you have to start talking to people and finding out, do people realize that when you're having sex, there is a possibility of pregnancy, and there is, yes, there is abortion, but there's also other stuff to prevent this too. There's condoms. There's the Plan B pill. There's monthly pills for birth control. And you have to explain to people that you have to think about who you're having sex with. Think about this person. I know you want to go out on a Saturday night. You want to have fun. You want to drink. You want to have a bunch of guys talking to you. You want to have a bunch of girls goggling all over you. But you got to think about this. When you're with that person, do you want to be with that person for 18 years? Do you actually want to be with this person for 18 years? Because that's what happens with pregnancy. If she does not want to have an abortion, you are stuck dealing with her for 18 years. You have a child. You have to provide for your child for 18 years. So you have to look at this and state, do I want to be linked to this person for 18 years? When you start teaching at the beginning of the issue rather than trying to fix the end of the issue, then you're going to start controlling it and start getting away from it. I think people really have to start looking at morals and, looking at their future and wondering, is this one night going to change my life forever? If you already have 2 kids and you want to go out and do whatever and have fun, get a vasectomy, get a hysterectomy. Prevent stuff so you don't have to be in the position to even have to wonder, do I have to get an abortion or not? Should I be able to get an abortion or not? That's the timer. So that's my thinking on that subject. We really have to fix the beginning of the issue and stop looking at the end of the issue on that one. So we'll go on from there. And live chat is open. If you agree with any of this, if you disagree with any of this, please drop your comments in there. If you would have answered the question completely different, drop your comments in there. I'll talk about it on live chat. And if you leave it in after, we'll talk about it next week. So let's move on with the next question. Why should voters trust Biden to solve the crisis? And I believe it was just the general crisis. Was it? I can look this up real quick. I have the transcript here. because a lot of times they went off on tangents, and it was really hard to try to wrangle this in to what was going on versus what was happening. And I believe it was. Okay, so they were going off a topic. Okay, so that was there. Excuse me just for a moment. Okay, so they moved on to the issue of immigration and border security. So a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis? So we got into immigration on that, and they wanted to know Biden how he would solve the crisis. So I'm going to start the 2 minutes with I don't think he can solve the crisis at this point. Um, he has the ability to use executive orders, and he only recently used it to basically state that if they're having too many border crossings illegally, that they can shut the border down. So it depends on how you classify the border crossing. Is it for asylum? Is it for this? Is it for that? And they may tweak the numbers a lot. So does it really fix anything? No. They go into later on into this subject, but I'll touch on it now. I think here's what you do right now. You shut the border down immediately. Everyone who is trying to come in, sorry, you have to wait in Mexico, and you start finding out who is in this country right now. Anyone who has multiple felonies, multiple convictions on anything, or caught multiple times coming over, you are automatically deported. You're held, you're put on the next plane out to the back to your country, and you can apply through your country to come back here. If it is found that, you had multiple convictions on stuff, we'll deny it immediately. Do you start deporting right away? Yes, absolutely. As soon as you have the people, you fill the plane, you fly it back to wherever they're from, and you drop them off. You work with countries because some countries will say, no, we're not taking these people back. But you know, have meetings and work it out where these people will be brought back to their country. And we go through the process of finding out who's in here because you have no idea who's in here. Border crossings when Trump was president were around 2 million. And so far, while Biden has been president, it's up around 7 million. So there are far more. And these are the people that they've actually stopped. We don't know about the people they have not stopped, who have just walked down a road, got a ride or something, and are in the country now, and you have no idea who these people are. So the next question, which was very closely related, was to President Trump. Will Trump deport every undocumented immigrant in America? And if so, how? I don't know if he will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, but certainly you need to find the ones who, like I say, have multiple convictions, have multiple offenses on them, who are not here for just trying to get a new life, a new chance at stuff. And you can clearly see one of the gangs from Venezuela has actually done a commercial in Times Square recruiting members from that area to join their gang. So these people are not here for the, hey, we're trying to start a new life because it was so bad in our country. These are not the migrant workers that come in and work the summer and, you know, then return back with money to help their families in their countries. Uh, these are just the criminals. And a lot of countries know what's going on, and they have basically done what they've done before: release criminals, give them tickets into Mexico, and tell them this is how you get over the border. Watch this TikTok, watch this video. It'll tell you how to get over. Here are the ports of entry. Go around them and get into the country. If you know a country is just taking anybody and everybody, and you don't want these people in your country, you're going to send them to the country that's taking everybody. And I'm not knocking America. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have immigration. You should have immigration. As birth rates are falling around the world, immigration is seems like it's going to be crucial to have people to do certain labor jobs. Um, if you're running out of people for manufacturing, you're going to need people. So immigration helps with that. But it's having illegal immigration and it's having immigration of criminals and convicts that is the problem to this process. And it's sad to say, but a few people sour it for everybody else. And so you have to find those people. And in order to do it, you have to move services around. Instead of staying at the border, some may have to come into the country and start going through and finding people who are here to just do bad things. And I know it looks like, some sci-fi movie with cops trying to find people and run through houses, and no, 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 no. It's just finding people. And it'll be pretty easy to do. It'll A lot of them are on social media. I'm sure if you check Facebook pages, you'll find their names, you'll find their locations, you'll be able to know what's going on. And please don't give me this, well, you can't search Facebook pages. They're already doing that. The CIA, the FBI has already infiltrated companies like Google and Facebook and are already checking all this stuff. They know what I'm saying right now. They know what you're reading on your pages. They know what's going on. So let's actually use the resources that we have right now to do something good. Okay. We're going to pause for a minute. Let me take a drink here. I am going to try to get through this within the hour or so. So, next question. It was on the Ukraine and Russian war. Putin has stated that his terms are he wants to keep the land he's acquired, we'll say, in Ukraine, and he wants Ukraine to abandon a NATO bid or a bid to get into NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable for a ceasefire? No, they're not acceptable for a ceasefire. This would be telling the bully who's stolen the money, okay, you can keep the money, but just don't do it again. More than likely, he's going to try it again, or another bully is going to step up and try to do the same thing. We need to come to this matter stating, listen, we understand what happened under this old regime. We are the new presidential word escape. The new presidential assembly that is here, and here's the deal. If you walk back, leave the Ukraine land, we will walk back and not continue funding a war. This war shouldn't even really be funded at all by us. This is a war that was started because NATO kept moving into that area, trying to acquire all these countries around Russia. And Russia said, hey, if you keep moving in, we're going to start taking land back. That's what happened. So, why it's come to this point where it's now 2, almost 3 years into this, you have innocent people dying, all those men all on both sides that basically got told, "Pick up a gun and go fight, kill each other, blow each other brains out, fire missiles into apartments, kill all these people," and nothing's been achieved at all out of any of it. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you sit there and you say, "Listen, you let Ukraine sit as it is. We will step back also, and we will work a deal out from there." I don't know if I 100% trust NATO, so would I tell Ukraine to join NATO? No. I again, these globalist organizations work for the globalist elites. They don't work for regular people, okay? They're simply there to give people money and power. That's all they're really there for now. It's like unions. Um, Unions were great in the beginning. They tried to help solve a lot of problems and create laws that were going to make it fair for workers versus companies that felt like they could just do whatever. But now that everyone's kind of gotten to the point where, um, everyone kind of knows the process of what things are happening and where things are going, do you really need that union still? Or is that union simply just sucking up dues every week or every month and just saying that they're doing stuff, but merely just posturing for power so they can feel like they're good? They can walk around and put their collar up and say, "Yeah, I'm a union rep." But do they actually really do anything for the workers? So I think NATO is kind of in that situation now. Does NATO actually really do anything other than just be there as this, like, well, there's a fear that something might happen, so we got to be ready for it. Well, why can't the countries be ready themselves? You know, that's a good question I have. Why can't treaties be made between countries and brothers and work things out? So, I think for the situation in Russia and Ukraine, they need to work a deal. They Sending money over and over and over and over again isn't helping anyone in this situation. Nothing's moving, nothing's going anywhere. Okay, next question. This is for President Biden. What additional leverage will Biden use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? So it switched over to Israel and Hamas. And President Biden was stating that he was working on trying to end the war. And some say he is, some say he isn't. He says he's providing everything for them. Some say he's not providing everything for Israel. President Trump was very much in Israel's corner, stating, yes, let Israel go in there, finish the war, and let's make it happen. What I would say to this is a war that's been going on for a long time. There's a lot of different factions involved in this. Israel's fighting Hamas. Israel is fighting Hezbollah. Israel is fighting the Houthis from Yemen. Everyone is fighting everyone, it seems like, out there. So I think you have to certainly get Hamas out of Gaza. You need a Palestinian leadership there. And then you can sit down and work a deal where you can have a two-party state. Simply because Israel was willing to give the land up for Palestine, then goes in and starts to take settlements in that land. So what happened? What happened in this time it depends on who you read. It goes back and forth. Well, this issue wasn't met and that wasn't met, so maybe it wasn't going to be. But at one time, the Israelis and the Palestinians were working towards a two-state solution. So why can't we get back to that? I know there's a lot of talk of Iran funding this and trying to attack Israel. They fired, I think it was 100 or so missiles, and 97 of them got knocked down. So we as America have to attack that bigger problem. We have to go to Iran and we have to state, okay, it's time to back down. And there's new elections going on. We'll have to see who gets elected as the president of Iran. There is still the supreme leader. You have to kind of find a way to take them out. Because once you have the smaller parties on a level playing field, then hopefully something can get worked out. But until that happens, they got all the ammunition in the world. Israel's got all the ammunition in the world, and they're just going to keep firing off at each other until eventually they're all dead. So you have to figure out that part of the solution. So, all right. President Trump, would you support an independent Palestinian state to bring peace in the region? He did not answer this question. Neither did Biden. So I'm going to answer it. Yes, I do support that if we can get the correct regimes to run both of them, that we could have the two-state solution. Currently, the parties running them right now, I do not think either one of them wants it. So you're not going to be able to do it right now. You're not. The Hamas is running Gaza, and the PLO is not there to do anything. Israel, Netanyahu is hardlining that he wants to take out Hamas, but more, he wants to take back Gaza. So you don't have the ability to do this right now, so you can't do it. So you have to find a way to get the people back on level ground. Everything is out of whack there, and until you can find that out. Now, I'm going to bring this up. I don't know. I don't think it was brought up, but there are still American hostages with Hamas. I would state we need to send covert operations in to get those hostages out. We need to help Israel get their hostages out. The hostages thing should have been dealt with already. And then we work on who's blowing up who after that. But those hostages should have been back already. So that's a problem that this current presidency needs to work on. So I'll say that. Okay, moving on. This was to Trump. Okay, so they moved on to the January 6th. And he said, what do you say to voters that believe you violated the oath to protect the Constitution on January 6th, to protect and uphold the Constitution on January 6th and May again? Okay. There was just a ruling by the Supreme Court that kind of gave President Trump immunity on certain issues. They're still working out the language on how to word what the issues are. But basically, it's most stuff a president is going to do, he's going to have immunity on. And I think you kind of have to do that because presidents are put into a position where they have to make calls that nobody else is really ever going to make. You're never going to make a call as to should I bomb that forest and take out that fort, or do I let people get killed? So when you're making these type of calls, some are going to be right, some are going to be wrong. And I think you need the immunity to be able to try to make the best decision possible. So, do I think he violated the Constitution on January 6th? From what I've looked through and what I've read and what I've seen, I do not see anywhere where he was directly inciting the riot. Um, I think the riot was actually starting even before he started talking. He said peacefully and patriotically, um, I guess congregate or something to that nature. Um, I'm not gonna get it. So the January 6th thing, I'm going to say, the march on Congress still has not fully been investigated. We still don't know who was actually trying to bomb the con- the Democratic Convention Center and the Republican Center. There was someone who was running around trying to plant bombs. We don't know who that person is. There were several people at the march who may have been identified as FBI agents. So, were there any agents, FBI or CIA, who were infiltrating these groups and trying to push them to do this? This was originally started as a march, which then marched onto Congress and proceeded to break into Congress. Um, some video actually shows no one breaking in, but rather people walking in and walking around and security not really doing anything. So, was it a break in? Was it not a break in? It depends on what video you watch. Was it trying to overthrow the government? No. No, it was not an overthrow of the government. It was not an overthrow of democracy. These were not, most of the people were not organized groups, didn't know what was going on, were simply marching, watching. Were there a few people in the groups who were affiliated with certain organizations that were trying to interrupt the certification of ballots? Yes. Were those individuals caught and prosecuted? Yes. Those people should certainly be prosecuted for that. Um, for people who walked in and walked around thinking that it was open, should they go to jail? No. Great timing with this comment. Let me see if we can. Can we pin that? Hold on, hold on, hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. We're just working through a little technical glitch. There we go. There's the pin. Why did Nancy refuse to send in the National Guard? Okay, so video came out last week from her filmmaker daughter, where they're in the back of a SUV. I'm assuming it's suburban. I believe she was in the third row. Nancy was in the second row. And she states that, she made the call to not call the National Guard, to not bring them in. And Trump states he had National Guard troops ready to come in. The chief of police even stated National Guard troops were supposed to come in, were ready to come in, and the call was never made. So Nancy Pelosi has admitted she made the call to not bring them in. You have to look at this. This was January 6th, 2021. COVID had already shut everything down. There was the summer of love and riots were breaking out everywhere. There was a lot of tension. Why you do not have security heightened, especially when you are doing an official certification of the ballots, I believe, or if it was something else, please share it in the chat. You absolutely 100% should have had security brought up. And perhaps it can be seen that because she did not bring the security up, she knew it was going to incite it and bring it into Congress. So do I feel he violated the Constitution with it? Certainly not. And I got about a minute left. So the problem with the 2020 election is this. Was the election won by Biden? Yes. Was there fraud in the election? Yes. Has it been proven? Well, there are several cases that show a lot of evidence that, yes, it could be proven. How much fraud was going on during the 2020 election? That is what nobody will ever know, because things have been changed, stuff has gone missing. You're not going to know how much fraud was done. So you cannot be able to tell whether Trump won or Biden won. So for all extensive purposes, we don't have time machines. We can't go back in time. I say we let it sit where it is right now, and we look forward. Who wins 2024? That is what is going to really, really change everything. Okay, so we're moving on. Okay, so this was a question to President Trump. Can you clarify, as you have said, you have the right to go after your enemies, well, political opponents. So the question is brought up that he made a statement that if he's elected president, he will go after his political opponents. Here's what I would say. Rephrase that. If I am elected president, I will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law anyone who has broken that law. Period. End of discussion. That's what should be stated. And that's what can legally happen. That's it on that. This was to President Biden. Do you believe Trump voters will be voting against American democracy? I think he's trying to get Biden to call out Trump voters, and I think they wanted another deplorables moment. We'll start the clock on that. Here's what I'll say. Vote for who you feel is the right person to represent you. That's what candidates are supposed to be. Candidates are supposed to be representations of the people. If I'm running for president, I'm a representation of you. If you feel something is wrong, you talk to me about it. We fix it together. That's what being a representative of the people is. That's what politicians should be. And no, I don't believe anyone breaks the democracy. The democracy, which is people say it's more of a republic, is the ability to be able to choose who you want. The point of America was to be able to bring people here and make them representatives of the people, and to do the job for a certain amount of time and then come back and be the people. George Washington only ran for 2 terms and chose not to run further to instill the perception and the precedent that we are not monarchs. We are not kings. We are not dukes. We are not lords. We are not here to rule over people. We are here to represent people and get things done that mere people cannot get done alone. The point of the nation is to instill our borders, protect us from outside intrusions, and to help build major infrastructure that we need for the country that states can't do on their own, that people can't do on their own. And I'll stop right there with that. Next question. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that Biden hasn't made progress? Okay, so we're going to start the 2 minutes right there on that one. So this was brought up as they brought up that black people feel like there hasn't been a lot of progress with the Biden administration. And a lot of black people are, feeling inflation right now. Their paychecks aren't going as far as they thought they would. I would add that their communities are being taken over by illegal immigrants. I saw videos of Boston where they were shutting down rec centers to house illegal immigrants, where one gentleman actually was staying there because he didn't have a home anymore. He would sleep out at night, but go there, take a shower, use some of the facilities. And this was how he was making it in life. And by them taking it, he was no longer able to use it anymore. So do I feel the black community has been, hurting and struggling during the Biden administration? Yes. But I'd say all communities have. I don't know why we need to start singling people out. We're all Americans, and I believe all Americans have been suffering for the last 4 years. And I think we need to start changing things and getting education back in so that people can live better lives and get better jobs and make more money and build their communities back. So much was torn down during these 4 years. We need to start building it back together, and we need to do a better job at it. And do I think another presidency of Biden is going to fix all that? Absolutely not. If Biden is voted in again somehow, you're going to have 4 more years of what you just had. So if you love what you just had, then by all means vote him in, because you'll never see the differences. Okay, we'll move on from that. Will you take action as president to slow the climate crisis? So climate change is on the board. Where do we go from there? Okay, so climate change initiatives have been taking place and done through the government. It has not done very well. There were supposed to be 500,000 chargers built, and in the time that they were supposed to do it, they've only built 7 or 8. So right now, government doesn't seem to do anything well with climate change. They're still using their private planes, going back and forth everywhere, and it doesn't exactly slow down the CO2 emissions and all that. Is climate change even real? The major thing for climate change that they're stating is that the Earth is warming up. There are hotter summers, there are more hurricanes, there are more destructive weather. I would state this: the world has been around for billions of years. Man has only been around for about a couple 100,000 years. You have no idea the cycles of the Earth. There are cooling cycles, there are heating cycles. We've had ice ages. We've had times before ice ages where the world was, 150 degrees. So, can you state to me that this right now, this heating of the Earth is completely being affected by man alone? Or are we actually in a heat cycle right now and the Earth is simply just heating up? I'm not saying we're not polluting. We're polluting. If you simply type in the Pacific Ocean garbage flume and see that, yeah, we're polluting the hell out of stuff here. Now, can we stop that? Well, we got to talk to every country out there. Okay. The Paris Accords, they didn't work because they were putting it on. I'll ask for a little bit more time. They were putting it all onto some nations to do more, to give credits to other nations who didn't want to do anything or who couldn't do anything. And while some can't, there were some who just didn't want to. So you can't have half the world cleaning up and the other half still polluting it and think that anything is ever going to change on that. It's not. So until you can get a collective way of thinking on this, then you need to just be able to do the best that you can. Do we have terrible acid rain right now? Do we have, overflowing oceans right now? I say no. And here's why I say no. How many Hollywood stars and how many politicians have beach houses right now? If you're telling me that in 5 or 10 years, the oceans are going to be overflowing, eroding beaches, and taking them out completely, then why are you buying $1 million homes on beachfronts? Doesn't make any sense. So I'll stop on that and we'll move on to the next question. This was to Biden. Will you name steps you're willing to take to keep the Social Security solvent? That's a bit of a mouthful there. So the process of keeping Social Security solvent, it is stated that sometime around 2035, Social Security will run out of money or be running out of funding. We'll put 2 minutes on the clock for this. The way to keep Social Security running, we'll get to that comment in a minute, is to simply have more babies. That should be one of the main objectives pushing that. Number 2 is to cut government spending. If you cut government spending has been taking money from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and borrowing it, quote unquote, to fund programs. I love that word, programs for the government. So if you cut back on government spending to the point where you don't have a deficit every year, you may have extra money that you can start putting back into Social Security, back into Medicare, back into Medicaid, and be able to keep it funded and keep it growing. But you do also have the problem that you have far more people about to be retiring and taking their money than they are actually putting into the system. So you have to look at it from both sides of the program as to how to fix it so that it doesn't go out. I would also encourage people to start investing properly, learning investment strategies, finding ways to put aside their own money. And as hard as this sounds, rely not just on the government to get you through retirement. I know people retiring right now who were told you would be able to do what you wanted to do with just Social Security. And I'm sorry the government lied to you, and there's not a lot that I can do right now to fix that. But if I was president, I think you have to tackle the issue on both sides on that one. All right, we're going to take a minute. We're going to get to this comment that came in on the climate change. Some think wind turbines are making hurricanes stronger. Honestly, I don't think you get enough energy from wind turbines. Thank you, Mary Jade, for that comment. I see them spinning. I've driven through Ohio and Indiana and Illinois, and I've seen them. And I can't tell whether they're going fast enough to actually generate enough electricity. I'd have to do some studies into that to really see. I don't think they're making hurricanes stronger because your hurricanes are starting in the Western African coast and building from there. So you'd really have to be affecting winds from almost completely around the world to be able to do it. I think it's the warming oceans that are doing it. And I think we're just on a heat cycle right now. The earth will, keep warming and warming and warming. And you're with the warmer waters, it creates stronger and bigger hurricanes right now. We have Beryl right now that was a category 5 downgraded to a category 4. So you just get ocean turbines, but still, I mean, are there enough of them to really affect it? Um and could a hurricane just take them right out? I mean, I don't have enough knowledge on this subject, I'll be honest. And so to really look into that, I'd really have to look into where the turbines are, what effect it has on the wind currents and the ocean currents to be really to see if they could make hurricanes stronger. So we will have to get back onto that. Okay, so next question was to President Biden. What would you do to make childcare affordable? This was another question that no one really answered the first go round. They kind of came back to Biden, and he'd state, you just need more child tax care credits. So it was giving more free money to people to help with childcare. So I'm going to start the 2-minute clock and I'm going to go with that. Okay, so first off, you'd have to look into these child care programs and agencies that work with child care. Are there too many restrictions? Are there too many guidelines to meet that they cannot lower prices to make it more affordable? Certainly, we want our children safe. But is there something in the system as it is itself that is affecting the prices to be so expensive? Simply giving more money is like feeding a pig. It's just going to make it a bigger problem. Well, not a problem for the pig, but you're just going to make it fatter. It's the same thing that happened with medical insurance. Once the government started stepping in and paying for it, everybody knew the money was guaranteed, so everybody upped their prices. So now you have, $10,000 x-rays and $50,000 surgeries when they were never supposed to be that expensive. So if you keep putting the money into childcare, it's never going to fix it. So I think you need to look at the system and see how is it affected. Another thing is do we need to go back to having at-home parents to take care of the children? If we're able to cut taxes and have corporations have more money, they can pay higher salaries, therefore having parents where one parent can work and afford everything and the other parent can stay at home and take care of children. That takes out childcare and it promotes a healthier family. So perhaps eliminating childcare altogether would be the solution to having the increase in costs go away. So it's something that it needs to be looked at from different ways, but certainly I don't think the child tax credit going up really helps it because you'll just see the costs go up from there. Okay. So I'll move on to the next question. Fentanyl. Fentanyl and other drugs are becoming a bigger issue in America as there's more addiction than ever before. What will you do to help Americans with addiction? All right, we're going to start 2 minutes on that. I think the first thing you do to help addiction is you shut down the border. A lot of fentanyl is coming from China through Mexico into America, and it's fueling the overdoses and even just people were trying to just get the high and ODing on it as well. So you have to shut down the source, and that is through the border. The cartels are just running it in like candy, and it's not good. Number 2, you have to bring the morale of America back up. A lot of people that were using drugs recently that started using are just people that couldn't take what was going on in the world anymore. You sat through COVID and you were stuck in your home, and maybe you were talking to your friends on a computer like this and just FaceTiming and stuff. And maybe you got out once in a while, and now you're at a situation where you don't have enough money to go out and still do stuff, and your friends don't really go out as much either, and everyone's kind of just held up through something, and people are depressed, people are suicidal, and people are just in a weird funk right now where they don't know what's going on, they can't explain what's going on, so they're trying to escape the world, and they'll do drugs and they'll drink alcohol and they'll just try to escape. And that's where you find people who's, "Oh, I got some marijuana and it was laced with fentanyl and I got way more of a high." Or, people are mixing this with that and doing all that stuff. So I think you have to bring the morale of America up too, to where people don't want to do drugs. They want to, get a natural high and be happy with the way that they're doing it right now, rather than trying to escape the situation by using drugs and get, getting accidental overdoses and just being in horrible, horrible places. So you have to work on it on both sides, which would also help with the illegal immigration that's coming in. All right, we're gonna start wrapping it up. I got two more questions. We'll go with that. Okay, so the next one was stating that presidents are old. Biden would be 86 at the end of his term. Trump would be 82 at the end of his term. How well will you handle the job due to age? Well, I am 41 right now, so if I were to be president, I would be 45 at the end of my term. So I think I would be able to handle the job pretty easily. I'd probably have some gray hair coming up through here. I already have a ton of stress, so I don't know how much more stress you could put on me, but um I like late nights. I like handling a lot of stuff at the same time. Um, so I think I'd be able to handle it. Uh, I think I'd be able to do a better job than I think most of these candidates. Simply because I like listening to people. I like having interactions with people. I enjoy hearing from people, their lives, their situations. I can tell you a million times where I've been at a place and I'll just start talking to the person next to me and we'll end up having a great conversation. When I used to go to Disney, I'd always find people in line, usually people from New England. We'd always like find each other and we just start talking about what's going on, what's happening, is this still open, what's going on up there, where are you from? So that's really what you need to be president, is you need a good connection to the people to find out what's going on. You need to be able to connect to other presidents around the world also, to be able to find out what's going on with them and how you can work together or work something out. You really need to be a people person to do that, this type of job. You need to be someone who's analytical, not emotional. You can't just say, well, somebody, pissed me off, so we're going to do this with them. Uh, excuse me. So you really need somebody who has it all together, is able to pick up quickly, because I don't think there's no training session to be a president. You really have to kind of learn as you go on the field, figure things out. Yes, a military background does help because you'll have seen the world, you'll have seen how militaries work, you'll see how people have interacted. But I think certainly if you have enough knowledge, you can also get into that. And there are advisors and everything for that. So if you have a good team around you, you're able to communicate and you're able to interact with other people very well. I think it's a position you can hold. you have to be trustworthy and you have to be able to talk to people and find out what they need and be able to get it to them. And if you can't get it to them, you have to be honest enough to really be able to tell them why you can't get it to them. Can we work something out? And I think that's the role of the presidency in relation to everything else. Congress, you work with them on developing new laws. Supreme Court tells you whether they're going to be right or not. So you're just there kind of as the lightning rod for people's comments, concerns, and questions. All right. So we'll move on. One last question. This was to Trump. Will you accept the results of this election? And will you state political violence is unacceptable? All right, 2 minutes on that. So, yes, political violence is unacceptable. I mean, if you see this stuff that goes on in third world countries and then you start seeing it on American TV, then yeah, we reached a really hard point. So, yeah, I say political violence is unacceptable, but at the same time, I say fair and free elections is what is deserved. There should not be fraud. There should not be people who are dead that are voting. There should not be illegal people voting. We need a serious look at why people are so disenfranchised with the election system. Is there transparency with it? Are people seeing what they should be seeing? Are people able to find out the information that they need to find out? Because there's nothing you need to be hiding about any of these elections. If this person voted, this person voted. If they voted for this one or that one, that should be pretty easy to find out. The issue with the results of this election is there going to be a last minute fumble? Is there going to be some kind of October surprise? And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of wondering now, because the debate went so bad Thursday that you don't know if Biden's still going to be in there. A lot of people are calling for him not to be in there. A lot of people are having backdoor meetings right now. Some are moving people around. Names are being thrown. People are raising their hands, but not raising their hands. And so let me pause this for a minute and we'll stop it for a minute. So, yeah, the problem is if they try to take Biden out, there are several states, one of which is Wisconsin, that last Friday was the last day to change the nominee. So if they put in someone other than Biden, you would have to have a write-in campaign. And can you get enough people to actually show up and write in whoever you're putting into? So now they may have filed paperwork before these deadlines thinking that it was going to go like that anyway. So I don't know if that's been done or not. That has to be seen and looked at. But from what I've heard, if they move it to Kamala Harris, she'd be able to get all the money that Biden has raised. So she is now a top pick. Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, who else is it? Gretchen Whitmer is thrown out there. A lot of different names are being thrown out there right now. The problem is like I say, you may not be able to get their names on ballots. And I've seen polling where they're not really going that much further than Biden was. So Trump is still winning, like even against them. So you don't have anybody who is a, Democratic Superman or Superwoman, or whatever you want to say. But a Superman, someone who just jumps in and you say, oh my gosh, I want that person. There's nobody there. So they're scrambling right now. I can tell you, I would not want to be in any of their positions because it's absolute madness. And so it's a mess. And like I said, until we get into the Democratic National Convention in August, you don't know what to think. I don't know who's running. I don't know who to bet against. So until we get to that point and we see on that day who the candidate is, we just don't know. We just don't know. So it's a mess. So they went to closing arguments for that. I'll give myself 2 minutes since we are running long here. Here's my closing arguments. The debate's a mess. It was a mess. And both candidates are just showing, they are who we thought they were. So what do I say to that? Hey, if I could run, I would run. I think this is a moment where, the air is clearing from the pandemic. Things are starting to kind of level out, and you need a level voice to come in and sort of guide everything going from here. We're at a point where there are some countries that are doing well, other countries are not doing so well. And you really need a leader that you can actually have them stand up there, shoulders back, head up, and be able to lead. You know, you need a head snow dog. If there's not a good head snow dog, all those dogs don't know where to run and don't know how fast to go, and nobody knows where to go. And I think that's what we need right now. And the very fact that we couldn't find someone of that caliber, I guess, it is kind of it's kind of an election of fear. Is everyone is just saying, well, that other person is going to do much more damage than this person, and we need to protect the democracy, and we need to stand up for this. And listen, you're not protecting the democracy. The democracy or republic or whatever is going to go on. If a frail leader gets elected, it's more than likely that another country comes in and just takes over, rather than the democracy falls and we're just in shambles and it's a mess. No, I'm pretty sure another country will just come in and take over. So at that, oh, there we go. Give me a little bit extra time. So at that point, you just would have to learn Chinese or learn Russian or learn whatever, and you go with it. If you watch The Man in the High Castle, it's a great way to find out, how a country would be built if it went a different way. So what I would say is right now you look at who's actually running, which again we won't know till DNC. But your best bet right now is Donald J. Trump. He's running. He has best ability to win, and I think he has the best ability to guide the country going forward. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's never going to be perfect. Both sides are going to do whatever. But I think he'll be able to kind of rein in the elites, not the global elites, just the elites in this country, to be able to get stuff done and get stuff done in a good nature. If you just look at their records and look at the years that they were in power, how did you feel during those years? For me, 17, 18, 19, 20, they were mostly good. There were some bad times, but they were mostly good. 21, 22, 23, and now into 24, they were mostly bad. There were some good moments, but they're mostly bad. So based off of that, who would I vote for? I would vote for Donald J. Trump. So you've got to look at that and look at yourself. And if it is still Biden, you got to ask yourself, do you really think this man can run it? And if you do, well, God bless you, I guess. All right. I'm not going to take up any more time. If anybody has any questions, leave them in the comments section. I will get to them after. Hopefully the audio was good on this and video was good on this. So join me this Saturday. We'll be doing story time again. And then every Tuesday, I'll be doing the Angriest Man in Orlando show. Every Thursday, I'll be doing 2 Men in a Room, which is pretty much a debate show in itself. It's a lot of fun. So check that channel out and go from there. And I want to wish everyone a big, big thank you for watching this. It was an hour and a half, pretty much the debate. So thank you for watching all the way through. If you missed any of it, just rewind, watch it again. And if you want to subscribe, follow, like, share this to people, say, hey, come check out The Real Debate. And I wish everyone a happy and wonderful night. But remember this, always stay angry. Have a good night, everyone.